Some people, they call me a hoarder. I call it being prepared. I'm ready for whatever comes next. And trust me, there's a good reason why. Let me explain how this mindset could save you some money and stress, especially with prices constantly on the rise. We have no idea what's coming next. Tariffs, inflation, giant snowstorms. There's so much that's out of our control. And prices are rising. We can't stop it. But what we can control is how we plan ahead and work room into our budget to stock up on essentials now, before prices climb even higher. There have been comments on YouTube about me being a hoarder. I get it. I have jars of sauce, boxes of pasta, and even buckets of flour in my basement. And yes, there are several boxes of coffee down there. Not one, not three. Let's just say more than three. But there's one thing, this isn't new for me. I've always had at least 3 cases of toilet paper on hand, even before the pandemic made everyone TP obsessed. Hoarding? That sounds a little dramatic, don't you think? For me, it's more like the following motto: always be prepared. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. If you don't know me, I am the owner of FrozenPennies.com. I'm a financial coach, and as a family, we are debt-free. With tariffs potentially looming on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China in the coming year, now's the time to stock up on some key essentials and reevaluate what we use daily. Today, I'm going to show you what to prioritize, where to look for hidden savings, and what I'm specifically doing, and how to stay ahead of the game without breaking the bank. Being able to stock up on things will only last so long, but if it's something that you eat a lot of, you can at least save for 6 months or however long it takes you to use up your purchases. And if certain items become unaffordable, we can find creative substitutes that will work just as well. Now, I understand that not everyone will be able to spend the money up front on a stock up. I also have some other tips at the end for getting us through this increase. Let's talk coffee. Coffee primarily comes from Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and other coffee-producing nations. Because coffee prices are heavily influenced by imports, stocking up on ground coffee, beans, or even instant coffee now could save you money, depending on what you like to drink. These items store well for months. Now, as you know, I am a huge coffee lover. I love coffee. I drink about 2 to 3 cups a day. My husband also drinks coffee. So for us, this is a high priority. We have plenty of ways to make coffee in this house in case we have a snowstorm that knocks out our power. We're prepared. That also means that we need to be prepared for coffee increased prices too. So for us, that just means buying boxes of our favorite coffee. This also means buying bags of our favorite coffee as well, just in case we aren't able to get a hold of our K-cups. Because plastic, who knows if plastic's going to be taxed too. Here's a substitute if prices get too high. Switch to tea, which often has more affordable domestic options, or reduced consumption by savoring smaller servings. Let's talk garlic. A significant portion of garlic is imported from China and Mexico. Fresh garlic can last up to 6 months in a cool, dark place, and dried options can last forever. Garlic powder and flakes can last a really long time. Now, we also have the diced or minced garlic in a squeeze bottle in our refrigerator. That will also last a really long time as well. If you can find local farmers who still have fresh garlic for sale, that's definitely your best bet. That way you can continue buying your garlic at no added price. You can also substitute locally grown onions or other herbs like chives to add flavor if garlic becomes too expensive. Canola oil. Canada is a leading expert of canola oil, which has a decent shelf life and is used in many kitchens. We actually don't use canola oil. We don't think it's good for our bodies. So for us, this isn't a big deal. We don't really use canola oil. We like to substitute it anyway with olive oil, avocado oil, which which could very well be part of this tariff, as well as butter in baking. So for me, I like to melt the butter and use it in a cake instead of using canola or vegetable oil. Tomatoes, avocados, and berries. Many of these produce items come from Mexico and other warmer climate areas. Now, the good news is not so much for us here in upstate New York because there's snow on the ground. Many of these we can grow our own. You can grow berries inside. If you're in a warmer climate like California or Florida, you're all set with these things. You can get them locally. We can also consider as a substitution or alternative things like canned tomatoes to stock up on and frozen berries, especially if we like berries in our smoothies, our oatmeal, or our desserts. You can also buy avocados now if you find a good sale and mash them all up, add a little bit of lemon juice, and freeze them. Avocados actually freeze quite well. Shrimp is imported to us from Mexico, China, and Southeast Asia. Frozen shrimp has a long shelf life, and it's great to stock up when you find a good price. But many times for most people, shrimp is a little out of their budget. We like shrimp every so often, every once in a while, with some pasta, maybe broccoli, a little stir fry. But most of the time, shrimp is not part of our normal every week meal planning. Consider other types of fish that might be more local to you, that you might be able to actually catch locally. Consider going fishing, getting your fishing license and going fishing. I know here in upstate New York, we have a huge lake that we can get some really yummy fish out of. Bread is made from wheat, which might be grown domestically or imported from Canada and from Mexico. Luckily, bread freezes pretty well, especially if you double wrap it and get the air out so it doesn't get freezer burn. I tend to freeze my bread anyway, so for me, grabbing a couple extra loaves at Aldi or Walmart isn't a big deal. I can throw it right in the freezer. I do have a big freezer. I do understand that if you don't have the freezer space, a lot of these tips might not work for you. You just have to do the best you can with what you have. As a substitution for buying bread, consider making your own bread. There are so many very simple recipes out there. So grab your wheat in bulk now, throw that in the freezer or a big bucket with some of those, what do you call those little packets that oxygen absorbers. Make sure you grab some oxygen absorbers from Amazon if you're going to put it in the big buckets. We also have a bread machine that if the price of bread goes up, we're definitely going to be utilizing that a little bit more than we already are. Let's talk meat. Beef and pork are sometimes imported from Canada and Mexico, and the tariffs are really going to affect the prices of meat. Not that meat isn't already expensive for many of us. Consider watching the sales in the next few weeks to see what's on sale, and if there is a good price, consider stocking up if you have the space. Otherwise, there's a couple things that you can do. You can look for local farmers who have beef and chicken if those are the things that you love. You can also stretch meat further by incorporating plant-based proteins like the beans and the lentils or even tofu into your meals. This works great for recipes like meatballs or meatloaf to stretch it a little bit further. Citrus is a big one. Mexico is a major exporter of citrus fruits. Fresh citrus can last, if stored properly, a really long time, up to 6 months. We also have the advantage here of the southern states like Florida also providing us with citrus. If you can stock up and have a place to store your citrus, then I would strongly urge you to stock up. This is the time of year to see the best prices on citrus, like oranges, lemons, and limes. So we might see the better prices from the US-based citrus, and we might actually not see the prices increase as much as we thought. You can also just not use the citrus unless it's something important and use locally sourced things like apples or other fruits as snacks. Look for the fruits that are just less expensive. And a quick tip, vinegar can sometimes be substituted for lemon or lime juice when cooking. Many alcoholic beverages like beer and wine are imported from Mexico and Canada. Stocking up now, if those are things that you like, could save you money in the long run. Now, again, this is one of the things that we don't really spend money on anyway, especially this time of year. My husband likes a nice cold beer more in the summertime than in the wintertime. We might stock up a little bit on it, but it's not something that we're going to have 3, 4, 5 cases of beer in our basement. If you are a beer and wine drinker, consider switching to domestically produced craft beers and wine or experimenting with non-alcoholic beverages. Chocolate often depends on imported cocoa from other countries like Mexico. With Valentine's Day and Easter coming up, we're going to probably see an increase in prices on those things. Consider going after Christmas this year and grabbing the discounted clearance candy and using them for Valentine's Day and Easter. And if you're just a chocolate person, consider also grabbing them for your own personal consumption. Chocolate actually freezes well. It also lasts quite a long time. It has a great shelf life. I actually have a few bags of chocolate chips in my stockpile. I like to keep those there anyway. I might end up having to grab a couple more just because. Peanut butter is very important to our family. My special needs son has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every single day after his day program. The top producer of peanuts is China. So that means that not only is my stockpile where it is right now, but more than likely I'll probably grab a few more jars of it just in case. Now we are fully able to substitute if we need to. We could substitute with another nut butter, including sunflower, cashew, or almond butter. While it's wise to prepare for potential price increases, remember to stockpile responsibly and focus on what your household actually uses. With a little planning, you can stay ahead of the price hikes without breaking your budget. And now there are a couple of questions that you might have about stockpiling that I'd like to answer here. Are there any tips for buying these items at the best prices before the tariffs hit? Stockpiling strategically by looking for sales using coupons or promotions at your local grocery store. You can buy seasonal items like produce before they go out of season, and you can save some money. Also consider shopping at warehouse clubs, farmers markets, or discount stores for bulk savings. I know we love our bulk savings at BJ's. Should I focus on buying in bulk or smaller purchases more practical? Well, it really does depend on your family. Buying in bulk can be cost effective for non-perishable or freezable items, as long as you have that storage space and plan to use them before they expire. For items with a shorter shelf life, smaller purchases may be more practical to avoid wastes. Focus on the items your household uses most frequently to make sure the bulk purchases are worthwhile and they don't go bad. How much of each item should I stockpile to be prepared but avoid waste? I would say start by calculating how much your household typically consumes over a specific period of time, such as 2-3 months, and then stockpile enough to cover that. Avoid overstocking items with short shelf lives unless you have a way to preserve them, like freezing. And don't forget to rotate your stockpile by using the oldest items first. This will help minimize wastes. What are the best ways to store these items to maximize their shelf life? Store pantry staples like grains, coffees, and dried goods in airtight containers to prevent the moisture and the pests. Use those little oxygen absorbers too. And keep produce like garlic and citrus in cool, dark places, and freeze bread, meat, berries, and shrimp in freezer-safe bags to preserve freshness. And try to get as much air out as you possibly can. For wine, beer, and chocolate, ensure storage conditions are cool and stable to prevent spoilage or melting. Well, how do I stockpile on a tight budget? Start small by setting aside a portion of your grocery budget each week to buy extra items. Focus on the sales discounts if you can find them. Prioritize affordable essentials like rice, pasta, canned goods, and frozen produce to make those more expensive things last longer, These things have a longer shelf life and they're pretty versatile. Consider skipping non-essentials and reallocating that money toward bulk purchases of staples. Are there any risks of shortages if everyone starts stockpiling these items? Yeah, panic buying is a real thing. Remember the toilet paper during the pandemic? These can lead to temporary shortages, making it harder for others to access essentials. To avoid contributing to this, stockpile gradually rather than buying large quantities all at once. Focus on buying what your household truly needs and leave some on the shelves for others to maintain fairness. What if I don't have any place to put my stockpile? Well, you might have to get creative when it comes to this. Consider cleaning out your closets and adding stockpiles to the top shelves. Consider underneath beds. And I also saw one person who actually transformed her linen closet years ago on YouTube into a pantry because she had a super small kitchen and no space to put things. Now we have a super small kitchen and we chose to put shelves in our basement in order to put canned goods down there. The problem with our basement is that it's a little bit wet and damp. We did add a humidifier, but we try not to put things that are in boxes that could get mildewy down there. Really, we just use it for cans and jars. We're going to have to learn to be better with our grocery spending. That's the bottom line. Maybe the prices of everything will stay the same, or even better, go down in the months ahead. But if that doesn't happen, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, right? And most of us can do a little bit better with our grocery shopping. Very few of us are perfect. So if that's you too, watch this video next.